Why the decision to call the emergency debate?
This has been an issue that has been of global importance. We've seen across the country all legislatures have been asked to have this debate. We felt it was important to have it on our first day in. Obviously, the Minister of Environment has tabled the plastic ban bill today. We're looking out, there's consultation ongoing right now with Nova Scotians renewing the bill, and particularly around the Prosperity Act, Environmental Goals and Sustainability Act. So we're looking forward to hearing from the opposition members. As I said in my few remarks that I added to this debate, when this was passed in 2006-7, it was unanimously supported by all members of the House of Assembly, and it's my hope is that with constructive ideas that come from the opposite side, if they work into the bill, we'll be able to put them in so that all members of this House can support what the next decade looks like in protecting the environment and growing the economy in Nova Scotia.
So I take that to mean that the IGSPA updates are still a work in progress?
It's out right now being, we're hearing back from Nova Scotians on it right now. I think it closes in a few days.
But you're also planning to use opposition input?
Absolutely. That's what this debate will be about today.
The plan appears to be that to bring in the changes to that act in this sitting. Is that correct?
That's our goal. Yeah, that's our plan.
What would you say to folks who have been critical over how long it's taken to get to this? That work, if you read the legislation, was supposed to have started 2 years ago.
Yeah.
It comes off as being sort of last minute given the significance. How would you respond to that?
There's been ongoing work. The committee, as you know, part of the piece of legislation instruction committee, there's members of that committee. This work has been ongoing and collaboration happening in those committee meetings. Just because the legislature hasn't arrived, or the bill hasn't arrived to the legislature before today, no way means there wasn't work happening. All of those partners were at the table, continuing. They've had input on what's out there for comment. And today now we want to make sure that we hear from all members of the House and their parties on what they believe we can do to add to that and strengthen and continue to allow Nova Scotia to be a leader when it comes to protecting the environment.
So you've called for an emergency debate on climate change. Does that mean you consider climate change to be an emergency?
I think the global community has already said this is an emergency debate. This is an emergency issue globally. We've seen that in every part of the world. The fact of the matter is, I think Nova Scotians should be proud of the fact that they identified this as a major issue in 2005, 6, 7. They brought in that goal, allowed us to lead the country, and we know now there's more work to do to build on that.
On emissions, are we going to see this province adopt tougher emissions limits for the coming decade?
That'll become part of the bill when it's introduced, and the minister will do that on the day he introduces it.
Within the community, tomorrow we know that there's going to be a large climate strike taking place. What are your thoughts on that? Because several hundred students, community members, employers are going to be out. What are your thoughts on this?
I think it's an important demonstration to identify what is an important issue, continue to put it in the forefront of the elected body, but also through your networks, news networks, to Nova Scotians. This has obviously been a major issue long before the demonstration tomorrow. We've seen young people in and out of schools a number of Fridays last year. I've seen them out in my own constituency the last time I was home on a Friday. So I've been walking into town with a demonstration with the fact that it's now time to act. We have heard them, and I know the opposition members have heard them, and I'm looking forward to hearing their thoughts.
Premier, what is it about now? Because the issue obviously is not new, and this session, based on what we're hearing today, is shaping up to be all about the environment, perhaps more so than it's ever been under your leadership as Premier. Why now is it such an emphasis for you?
Well, there will be lots of issues debated in this session. The environment will be one of them. There's no question. But this has been an important issue. We as a government have taken this seriously. We've continued to reduce greenhouse gas reduction, continue to invest in greening our own properties, homes. So if you look at the number of investments we make, we brought in the first Coastal Protection Act in the province, its history and actually in the country. Those are all signals that the environment has been an important step for us, but we, as you know, this act needs to be updated. This is an important time for us. And this will give us a time on the floor of the legislature to be able to do this, and hearing from all members of the House. It's my sincere hope that this is less about the rhetoric that normally takes over the floor of the legislature and becomes about what are some concrete steps that they want to see take place as a government. As I said, standing up, no one party can claim ownership of the environment. All parties have had a role in doing improving the environment of the province, starting under the Conservatives, through the Democrats, and now with us. And now it is the men and women who are elected today's job to ensure that we listen to one another and listen to all Nova Scotians as we bring in this new act.
Why did you decide to give props to the NDP for their environmental advocacy in particular?
I actually provided to both the Conservatives and the NDP. I spoke about Premier McNeil when he was here, and Minister Mark Parent, who championed the original bill, which had unanimous support in the House of Assembly. And I also wanted to recognize the Democrats have continued to make the environment an important step, and we're not ignoring either one of what we'll hear today, and we will try to look at how do we best encompass the best ideas from the floor of the legislature into this bill.
Premier, on a different topic, we now know what the ask is from the stadium proponents of the province. Where is your head on whether or not it's appropriate for the province to put some level of funding towards the stadium?
Well, I haven't seen what's coming in. I do know what the ask is. As I've been very clear, there would be no general revenue being used from the province of Nova Scotia. It would be clear that if there was going to be a commitment by the province, it would have to be a new revenue source dedicated to that. They provided two options, hotels and car rentals. You've heard me say this before, in many jurisdictions that is the case when they're putting a new stadium up. So we'll look at it. It's obviously got to get through council, and our people are now looking at it. But I haven't seen the proposal, but I'm not outright saying no to this. We'll have a look at it, and but I want to assure Nova Scotians the money is not coming from general revenue.
You're obviously somewhat versed in their proposal so far, so what's your instinct about which direction you might go?
I'm actually not. What I do know is today they talked about the two revenue sources. The revenue sources are pretty common in jurisdictions globally, whether building new sports arenas, new sports facilities. So that I had a good idea that might be where it's coming. I've actually mentioned it in the media before. But I want to assure Nova Scotians that that is not any funding going into this stadium will not come out of general revenue. It will have to be a new revenue source.
When can we expect a
What role did the
decision?
province play in supporting the proposed team?
What they're looking for, I think the proposal is not the team. I think the proposal is the stadium. They're looking for support. We'll look at it, and we'll look at the economic benefit of the province, and we'll. For us, also look at what is the community benefit from this beyond just a CFL team. Are there other aspects the stadium will be used to support, whether it's the university football, community football, or soccer, or whatever other activity that may be on that facility.
Do you hope that Nova Scotia gets a stadium out of this?
I'm very grateful for the fact that, and we should be proud of the fact that a major sports team, a major sports league in the country is looking at Halifax on the East Coast. We are their choice. That tells you that the growth of our city and the growth of our province and population is being recognized. It tells you that the economy of the province is doing well, so I'm grateful for the fact that they're looking at us, but we'll determine what's in the best interest of the province.
When can we expect the province to make a decision about the proposal?
You know, I don't even know. I don't know how long it stays at City Council. I'm not even sure how long that process will take place. It might not even get out of City Council, but we will actually be looking at it and following the debate at City Hall. But at the same time, our staff will now be going in to look at it and say what is being proposed for us in this particular project, and then we'll make a decision.
Is
So
that
it would
to
be
say-
contingent on an approval from Halifax Council then?
Well, it will require all of us. The city by itself won't be able to do it, and we won't be able to do it without the city. So if the city decides to say no, then it ends the conversation.
But if the province decides to say no, then I assume it would be the same for the city.
It would be, but we'll wait for the debate. As you know, it's being housed in our major capital city, so we want to hear from them and hear what their thoughts are. But again, I think we should be recognizing that a professional league in the country has chosen to look again at Halifax and Nova Scotia. That's an important acknowledgement when you look at Eastern Canada that people see us as doing well and see Halifax and Nova Scotia as the place where growth is happening.
On the subject of the crane, are you optimistic that the province will be able to recover its costs at the end of this?
We're hopeful we'll be able to do that. This is about public safety right now. As I told you before, we're very concerned about the fact that the crane is still there. We knew the crane was being rented by a developer, and the crane fell on someone else's building. It's been a very convoluted way about this. It's not as if it's in the middle of a block. that we have people out of their homes, businesses not being able to open. So our hope is that we'll be able to reclaim, but public safety became the priority for us, and we're hoping sooner they'll be able to get on that site and strap it to the existing building, and then we start moving.
Claudia,
Okay, guys, last question.
Conflict of interest question in there. You didn't like that question. It was clear. What?
It's not that I didn't like the question. I think the question was not complete. You didn't tell the whole thing. The developer she's referring to is donated to the Democratic Party, and probably more than us, and donated to the Conservative Party. So to suggest the integrity of a well-known developer, to impugn it, quite frankly, before the legislature, and then take into question the integrity of a government with no foundation of that. The important part she left out, she included us when it came to the donations. She forgot to talk about the money that they've received from the Ferris family and the money that the Conservatives have received from the Ferris family. And to impugn somebody's reputation without any fact, I think, is beneath a member of the House of Assembly.
Thanks, Peter.